Hi again. In the chapter, Who is the Big Bad Wolf, near the end of 30 Years of Watchtower Slave, William Schnell, he's dealing with their attitude towards all religion, specifically the book Enemies and then the book Religion, published near the end of Rutherford's life. Now he deals with what they say about Roman Catholicism. The Roman Catholics come in for some scathing accusations. The entire chapter, Racketeers, in the book entitled Enemies, from pages 142 to 193, after defining racketeers, sets about to declare the Catholic religion as a racket. After once more stating that religion labeled the Christian religion is a racket invented by the devil, that's page 146, it states, quote, and in time pagan Rome blossomed into what is known as Papal Rome, which from then till now practices what is called the Christian religion, page 148. Beginning here, the author follows through with blow upon blow. He shows how fear was used, and then pretense, and how the hierarchical form of theocracy was used over the population, that's Rutherford's word, and how false teachings and inconsistency were employed, how organization methods were designed to increase numbers and wealth, and how purgatory became the doctrine for collecting money to create organization wealth, how ceremonies created formal worship, and how images began to be used as means of organized worship, and how they have houses all over the earth within which is practiced deceit. As I read this dissertation, when first published, I stood aghast. As I read this dissertation when first published, I stood aghast to realize, by comparison, how the Second Watchtower Society, from 1919 to 1942, that is Rutherford's era, was built up by means of the very practices for which it condemned the Catholic Church as racketeers. And as you recall what you have read in the preceding chapters of this story, of my life as a Jehovah's Witness, I know you will be struck by the same similarity. It is almost as if they have used as their blueprint this list of accusations of the Roman Catholics. Let us take a look at a few of the parallels. Jehovah's Witnesses, under the guidance of the Watchtower Society, have constantly utilized fear of the end of the world and Armageddon. It has acted as a club to keep Jehovah's Witnesses in line all these years, and it has scared many folk into their theocracy. You'll recall how they used pretense in the early years when they declared that 1925 would bring an end to the work and world in order to promulgate a new slant on doctrines, how they misused the scriptures to buttress their claim of being God's organization, and how they created their role as the faithful and wise servant class, setting up the very hierarchical form which they condemn in the Catholics. Then you'll remember how they began to use the very principle of organization of which they accused Christendom in order to gain numbers and wealth, the very things they accused the Catholic Church of being after. You'll recall how they instituted the advertise the King and his kingdom campaign, 1922, in order to sell books and collect money at the same time that they accused the Catholics of using the doctrine of purgatory to gain money contributions for the organization. Instead of the formal worship of the Catholics in meetings, and in the place of images which they accuse the Catholics of using, they have standardized a worship of buying and selling, with charts, quotas, and other business paraphernalia. Then we have seen how that once their religion of buying and selling was legalized by the United States Supreme Court and the courts of the land, they began to build houses or kingdom halls all over the earth to practice their religion of buying and selling, the very thing they accused the Catholic Church of doing. Is it not striking how closely they follow the practices which they condemn in others? By their own judgment they shall be judged. You can now well imagine that when I read these accusations of religion, Catholicism, and Protestantism, there welled up in my heart and mind the soul-felt query, who now is the racketeer? Next time, Protestantism is the offspring of the great harlot, so said J.F. Rutherford, put in a link to the pyramid structure of the Watchtower, which so closely resembles the Roman Catholic Church. which they forever demonize. See you soon.